Good evening. I have the pleasure tonight to announce the C.J. Hooker Middle School Band Chamber Ensemble performing under the direction of Andrew Pack. So welcome. Thank you.
One, two, three.
Thank you so much. All of you should be so proud of yourself. You never cease to amaze me, the talent that we have here at Goshen. And it's just a privilege that you come and you take time out to do this. So thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order a public hearing of the Board of Education of the Goshen Central School District tonight, Tuesday, May 2nd, 6:30 p.m. And tonight's meeting is in the District Administration Building and live streamed through YouTube. I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Curtis Coates.
Thank you very much. So as part of the required budget process, tonight is our public budget hearing, and following a review of the budget, obviously we can take any comments if the board so chooses on what is presented. But again, you will just see a summary of what has already been reviewed in previous budget meetings. The one additional piece that I can add just before we came down, actually Ms. Farrell handed to me, we have received our actual state aid runs from the budget that has been agreed upon between the legislature and the governor. At first glance, everything looks very static. It does not look like there are any significant changes from the last post that we had received, but it's good to actually have that in hand, knowing that we're walking into our vote with numbers that are fairly solid. So I'm gonna flip right into the budget presentation for the hearing, if that's okay. And I should be connected here. So obviously, it's always good to review our enrollments. Dissimilar from other districts, we did a 10-year look back on our enrollment. And the good news for our district, given housing starts and given what we have seen with issues related to the pandemic and other economic issues in the area, our enrollment has stayed fairly static. We've only seen about a 5% plus or minus move in our enrollment over the last 10 years. With our peak being in 2019, and we are actually right around the low point of where we are now. I have had some additional conversations with some of the town supervisors about new housing starts. We try to look closely at the birth rate through the County Department of Health, but like I said, our historical enrollment is showing a fairly static enrollment for the district. Reviewing next the expenditures for the proposed expenditures for the 23-24 school year. Our largest change will come in the area of general support. Again, this is everything that is related to supporting the classroom directly. We will see about an 18% change there, related specifically to some of the instructional changes that we're going to make that I'll review in a later slide. Combined with personnel on the next line under instruction is about 5.1%. Transportation, the most significant increase there is related to our out-of-district transportation. So for special education, we contract right now with a private service because right now we're not able to manage those runs on our own. That last year was rebid through the COSER that we participated in with BOCES and saw a very significant increase, and the markup that you're seeing for next year is to account for that increase actually that we received this year. The undistributed line are the increases that we are seeing in our employee benefits related to health insurance and any other benefits to our employees, resulting in an expenditure increase next year for approximately 6.5%. Looking at the other side of where is the money coming from, as we spoke with the board last time, the local share is directly what we collect from our property owners, both residential and commercial. And as a 1% change on the levy will result in about $725,000 roughly in additional revenue. Overall, dollar for dollar, that is going to result in the overall budget of about a 1.3% change. Looking at both our other revenue, that is any revenue that we collect from rent that we receive, fee-based services that we receive for our space throughout the district, any out-of-district students that we may accept, we're looking at roughly a 18.7% increase there. It's about $262,000 in exact dollar for dollar revenue. Our largest increase for next year will come in the area of state aid. As we have discussed, Governor Hochul made a commitment when she became governor to reconcile the lawsuit over the decreased foundation aid that had happened back in roughly 2007. And part of the settlement was that she committed to fully funding the foundation aid formula as it was drafted. That has been a 3-year phase-in for all districts that were underfunded. So when this full phase-in started about 3 years ago, we were only at about 60% of the actual foundation aid formula as it's currently drafted. This is the 3rd year of that phase-in, so as the foundation aid is currently drafted, moving into the new year, our district will be fully funded, and dollar for dollar, that resulted in about a $4.7 million increase to the revenue side of our budget for the 23-24 school year. One of the actions that we took after the last meeting was looking at how we appropriate any unassigned fund balance to balance the budget going into the new year. One of the dangers of assigning too much fund balance to balance the budget is if the budget fails to have any excess revenue to be able to balance the budget, you're almost starting from a deficit if you cannot draw that revenue for the new year. So we actually decreased that in the proposal for next year by about $350,000, reducing it back to $900,000, which is where it was in about 10 years prior. So again, that will give us some sustainability moving forward and a little bit more predictability in the budget. Just looking again at a visual of what the budget looks like moving into the new year, obviously, as it should be, the largest portion of our expenditures for the new year will be in the area of program. That is anything that touches the classroom, personnel that touches the classroom, anything that is related to extracurricular, music, or sports. All of that is the programmatic portion of our budget. Administrative has to deal obviously with building and district level leadership, has to deal with oversight of transportation and food service as well. And then finally, the capital portion of the budget has to deal with funding the improvement and maintenance of our facilities. Again, we will see a little bit of that as well with the capital improvement project that we're working on at Scotchtown, and the commitment to the transfer to capital money that is also included for the ongoing work that we're intending to try to complete at all of our district buildings. Looking back at some of what we are trying to accomplish with what we are asking the community for. So we had reviewed this when we went over the instructional portion of the budget. Again, I'm not going to read each line individually, but we are trying to look specifically, just going building by building, at some graduation outcomes for our students. We're again focused through our strategic plan on looking at some K-12 and in particular some 7-12 alignment in the area of science and STEAM. Our commitment to substance abuse awareness and prevention within the buildings. And again, specifically looking at some of the internship opportunities that have been created by Ms. Luguanti, and now looking in the vocational field with Mr. Fedor as well, how to expand those opportunities for our students. We'll similarly see some of that work trickle down into the middle school at the same time. 6th grade picks up some of the work that we are doing in the elementary setting, both on the math side and the ELA and literacy side. This budget will support the onboarding, well, the investigation and the onboarding of an ELA and reading program. We already have in-house the new version of the math program that we use. We've actually just received that this spring. The Math and Focus program was something that we actually onboarded with several years ago. However, they had made numerous updates both to the online resources and many of the newly aligned, standard aligned instructional resources that we felt it was important to invest in the new version of the program. Again, the new budget will help support the professional development related to that and also any additional ancillary materials that we may need. And then again, we made some changes in terms of our science curriculum at the elementary level years ago. Mr. Redeker, in cooperation with Mrs. Kropp and Mr. Carter, began the implementation of Project Lead the Way as our science modules for grades K through 6. And this budget will continue to support that at each building as well. Looking at technology, we have written a new one-to-one Chromebook plan for us to be able to support the budget, where we are assigning Chromebooks at a particular grade level. Instead of now the students traveling to the device will travel with the students to the grade level. Through the grade levels, we believe this is far more sustainable to us and meaningful for the students to have access to that individual device. Some of the related issues that you will see in terms of program for next year. As we know, we still have remaining ARP and ESSER grant money. Now that we are watching closely some of the academic trends that we are seeing, it's our intent to move forward with the hiring of ELA and math specialists, one each in each of the 4 buildings, that will be able to work in addition to the staff that we already have with our interventionists for targeted skills and remediation that we may see as a result of any schooling loss, learning loss that we're still dealing with from the results of the COVID-19 pandemic. And again, this will help us to target those skills for those students that may be struggling. We're also looking at the addition of a social worker, specifically with CASAC certification, that will be able to help us address any issues related to substance abuse that we're seeing, and they will be able to program through all 4 buildings. Additionally, they will help with any related counseling needs that may come up as a result of program for IEPs. And again, these will be dedicated solely through the Carissa and ESSER and ARP monies that we have available. And just keeping in mind that when those monies expire, we'll be faced with 2 decisions. Either A, is it time to allow those people to go onto a preferred eligibility list and lay them off, or try to incorporate some or all of those positions into the operating budget at the time. We also could look at strategic retirements when they come up, whether we want simply, if those people are successful, to move into those positions that may be vacated by our retirees. We also see, moving on, supported in this budget from the state level, universal pre-K, which we actually have 36 seats that is now housed in 2 classrooms at Scotchtown Avenue. We'll be able to move into that again next year, supported through the money that the district receives from the state. We continue to look for ways to try to expand that, as right now the district is in a position where we currently have more interest still than seats available. Always trying to figure out new ways to increase that opportunity for students. And then again, also supported in this budget is a wireless connection infrastructure upgrade. We will receive 50% of that back through the E-rate funding project in the subsequent year on the revenue side of our budget. And it's a much needed upgrade that Mr. Starrett worked very hard on with many of our internal staff and also the vendors that we typically work with. So again, that is a very quick overview of information that we've already reviewed, but as part of the mandate to have our public budget hearing, we wanted to give this summary information. Glad to take any comments or address any questions from the board or anyone that's here.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Maureen, do I need to do a motion to close? Yeah. Okay. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing portion of the meeting? I have Shannon and Tom. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, meeting is closed. I need a motion to open the regular business portion of the meeting. I have Shannon and Brett. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Calling to order the business portion of the meeting. Next on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of meditation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda is privilege of the floor. I don't believe that we had anyone. Let's see, student representative report. Michael is not able to be here this evening. So next on the agenda is the legislative update with Mr. Tom Loftus.
All right, thank you. Just a couple of quick points. Tomorrow at BOCES, we have the next OXPA meeting. And so I just wanted to bring this one specifically up. O&R will be present at this meeting, presenting their plans for infrastructure upgrades a lot of talk about electric bus systems. They're going to be there presenting and answering questions, and I'm sure that will be the bulk of the meeting. So if anybody's interested, I'll be there, and whoever else wants to attend, we'll see what they have to say. Also, I did forward an email to everyone regarding the OXPA annual dinner. There will also be some presentations from some students who are receiving the New York State Seal of Civil Readiness, and they'll be discussing some of their projects. And it'll be just a connection, between all the members of OXPA, so we need to RSVP to Karen about that. And that's all the updates I have for today.
Thank you, Tom. Next on the agenda, let's see. Oh, did I skip over President's report? I did. I apologize. Nobody called me out on that.
That was on purpose.
I did have a couple of quick things. Sorry about that. So we'll just back up. I just wanted to recognize members of the Olympic Visual Arts from CJ Hooker and the high school, and I know that Mr. Jason Carter will elaborate on that. But again, congratulations to those folks. As we were here tonight with the public hearing, I want to remind everyone that the vote is on May 16th. Wanted to recognize Colin Ahern and Lauren Carroll for receiving the Orange Ulster BOCES Humanities Honoree Award. 34 students were recognized for their commitment to the arts and humanities, and 2 of our Goshen students, Colin and Lauren, were recognized. So congratulations to them. Let's see. And then also to just check the website again. We're coming towards the end of the year. May and June are very busy months. And there's a lot on the calendar. I know CJ Hooker, I believe, with their musical, let's see what they were doing. I wrote this down. Spring concerts are coming up for CJ Hooker. Goshen, the high school, is doing an awards night. Festival of the Arts is coming up. So a lot of good, cool things happening. The prom is on May 31st. Very exciting. And I think that that's all that I have. I don't want to take away from the updates that are on Dr. Coates and Mr. Carter's list. So again, some good things happening in a very busy time. All right. That was it for my report. So next on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Dr. Curtis Coates.
Thank you, Mrs. Salty. So the first item I just wanted to draw to the attention of the board is in relation to calendar. So we've carefully checked, rechecked, and triple checked the district calendar and the number of snow days that we have taken. The calendar actually had 4 snow days built into it. We've only utilized 3, which by contract, we either have to pay for an additional day of service from staff or utilize the last one. So the proposal will be to add the Friday before Memorial Day weekend as the last day of recess, as has been past practice. And that is actually on for resolution for you to approve tonight. Obviously, if we have a flood or an issue where we have to close, we'll have to revisit that again. But to give people proper notice that that's what we're looking at, that's the reason for the request tonight. The next is in relation to solar pilots. So solar pilots that occur in municipalities are currently negotiated only between the corporation that is requesting it or the entity that is requesting it and the municipalities that it may or may not affect. The practice has been up until now that the county, town, and the school district have somewhat worked together. The number of requests that are coming for solar pilots has been, to the county's words, exorbitant. The county has now sent notification to all the related municipalities that we'll share basically the form that we are going to use to discuss these with the applying agencies. However, beyond that, you're now basically on your own to negotiate these pilots. So we've reached out to council to have a conversation on the best path forward. The board should know, if you're not already aware, each municipality has the opportunity, if you so choose, to opt out of approving individual pilots only as they're related to solar power. Basically what that means is whatever the given value of the property is, so if it's a farm, if it's an open piece of land, you're still going to draw the revenue on what the empty piece of property is, but beyond that, any other pilot, you don't get that revenue. The reason that the IDA, the specific county IDA, does not take these on is they're not as significant. Solar pilots are far less than the larger industrial pilots, and they have opted not to take these on. The one thing I think we just need to be careful of is we don't want to become a mini IDA. So what we are going to try to do is meet with our local elected officials and try to have a common understanding of how we're going to approach these. Certainly as a school district, there may be certain things that we ask for. If there's something advantageous where we might ask for an educational component because they would set up a mini classroom, of course we want to take advantage of things like that. But from a fiscal perspective, we don't want to have a formula that is vastly different than the town of Goshen, the town of Walk Hill, the town of Wawayanda, because to be as transparent as possible, that has political implications that we don't want to draw negatively to the school district. We want to be fair, we want to be equitable, we want to encourage business and industry to come to the area at the same time, but we need to be equal in how we do that at the same time. So our approach right now, Ms. Lambrand has reached out to the supervisor for the town of Goshen. We've reached out to the county as well. We're going to try to reach out to some of the other towns, just to have a conversation to see other people's feelings on how do we approach this together. I don't think it's wise for us all to try to do this independently. So I will bring feedback to the board after we're able to have that meeting. We'll let you know who comes unless the board has any other direction that you want us to think about before we start to meet with the municipalities who may be affected.
I have a question. I appreciate all the information you sent out about this. And one of the things I understand is that in other pilots, sometimes there's a calculation for how this can, be figured out. So in those discussions at the county level with the, elected officials, what would be the goal for establishing who the lead analyst would be, right? You make a great point. If it's put on the local municipality, who's qualified here to be a lead analyst on putting together a pilot calculation and how it pertains to the different circumstances and everything else? So would that goal be figuring out that countywide level?
So one of the things that we have done with the prior pilots, especially in working with the county, is tried to apply the value of the property at the time. We've seen some very small ones come in that are maybe on 5 acres of property. One recently is on a very, very, very large parcel of land and is going to be far more impactful, if you will, both financially and what it's going to look like aesthetically to have that kind of solar farm go up. I think we need to allow, to be honest, and I can't direct them, but for the property assessors to have the most say in what's going to be the most equitable approach based on the value of the property. I certainly could make some assumptions to throw some formulas out there, but they're the experts in the field and really the value of what would come both to the municipality and the school district, they have to weigh in and push us in that direction.
Thanks.
Sure. Gotta keep going. Okay. So, as you know, we're making very good progress on our capital improvement project at Scotchtown. I am happy to report to date, we have had no change orders requested from the contractors. The roofing project is almost at full completion. The weather has kind of hindered their progress because they need a certain temperature and no rain. I would say they're probably anywhere from about 70 to 80% completion on the roofing portion of the project, which means that we're now getting ready to transition into the HVAC component of the project, which will move slowly until school is done. There's some things that they're going to be able to do in the crawl space of the building, and then they'll be able to lay out some of the piping on the roof once the roofing is done. But the real work won't start until the students and the staff are out of the building. They'll start the demolition of the old unit ventilators, and they'll really be able to start some of the upgrades then. We are right on schedule with where we need to be. We'll see, like I said, that transition from the roofing to the HVAC coming up very soon. The long-range forecast for the weather looks better going into the weekend, which means hopefully by the beginning of next week, the roofers will be able to get back up there and finish what they have to finish for the HVAC contractors to begin. From a security perspective, please know that with the contractors, we will be giving them ID badges. They'll have to wear certain uniforms because now they're going to be not just on the roof of the building, they will be going into parts of the building even during the school day. We had long conversations with the lead contractors about being able to vet and identify those individuals when they have to enter the buildings. And again, we will be able to question them, sign them in, sign them out, so we know who's in the building at all times when they have to enter the physical space. Along the same lines, one of the things that we have taken advantage of, we know as per our BCS and our Community Facilities Advisory Committee, that roofing, in fact, in all of our buildings is certainly an issue. We have asked the roofing contractor Tremco for a proposal that we have authorized. As you might remember, one of the things that we looked at when we were talking about addressing the roof at Scotchtown was whether or not we would be able to refurbish the roofs or if we would have to go to full replacement. Full replacement is more costly. It means they have to rip off all the membranes that are there, the insulation, any of the flashing that may go around the side. What they do essentially is they come in with a core drill and they do samples at different parts of the roof to determine the viability of what's left under the membrane that may be on the roof under the build-up. We've authorized a contract for them to move forward at GIS and determine whether or not the GIS roof would be eligible for the refurbishment as we were able to do with the entire roof at Scotchtown. If that is the case, we had transferred a capital money that was in the 22-23 budget that has been unexpended of $1 million. If the budget is successful for 23-24, we would have another $1 million. The hope would be that the quotes that Tremco provided to the district when they were looking specifically at the Scotchtown roof, we had them look at all roofs, that quote would hold. And shortly thereafter, I would come back to the board, look for approval to get land to issue a proposal and to be able to move forward with refurbishment of the roof at GIS next. We've had some very preliminary conversations with land if we are successful in seeing that pathway take place. It would be a little overly ambitious to think that it could be next summer because we're so far down in the calendar already. So we'd probably be looking at a spring of 25 where they would come in and be able to do the refurbishment at GIS. In the interim, Jim Freeze is going to have them come and see what they can do to rectify the situation in the GIS gym. In the interim, it needs to be fixed. We can't go another year and a half with that. But nevertheless, we need to look at the possibility of getting that full roof refurbished. And we should know, hopefully within the next 2 or 3 weeks, their findings between the scan and the core samples. We issued that purchase order and signed that approval for them to start that work as well.
Quick question, how old are the roofs right now at GIS?
So the original portion of the building, if you will, not the BOCES wing, I believe they're anywhere from about 30 to 35 years already, and the built-up's been changed many times already. The roofs don't owe us anything. The BOCES section is only about 15 years old at this point.
Can I just ask you,
Of course.
what does the timeline look like for fixing the gym part of the roof?
So Tremco was over there last week, and now that the temperature is changing and they'll finish at Scotchtown, the gym is going to try to push them to address that as quickly as they can. We need a solution, what they're gonna tell us on
Right.
I hate to say it, the temporary long-term solution, but we wanna try to accomplish both things at the same time, get them to commit to whether we could refurbish and what do they need to fix that gym roof at the same time.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just, I just want to put in everybody's memory banks, Mr. Carter and I spoke about this as well. This roof has been an ongoing issue for a long time, and Mr. Carter was principal there, I believe this was about 8 years ago now. There was a significant rainstorm and the whole front of the building flooded. He walked into the building, there was about 2 inches of water in the vestibule of the building, so they actually had to close school that day. This is a roof we have to move on to. We have to get this in the hopper one way, shape, or form to be addressed as quickly as we can.
What was the standard warranty they were issuing?
I didn't bring the quote down with me, but I believe, don't swear me to, I believe it's on the new product they're using, I believe it's 25 years. So the last piece too, before I turn it back to Mrs. Salty, we were so proud to support our students returning to OVA this year up in Saratoga after a hiatus through COVID. Mr. Carter is going to report on all the success that they had. I also wanted to offer a very special congratulations to our students at GIS. Lion King Kids went on with it was just such a great opportunity to see the community come together, to see so many students involved, and to see them have so much fun engaged in such a great program. So well done, Ms. Knapp, all of our parent volunteers, and especially our students. So with that, I will turn it back to you, Mrs. Salty. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Coates. Do we need the Assistant Superintendent for Business report? No, okay. So next on the agenda is the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum, Instruction, Personnel, and Technology report, Mr. Jason Carter.
Thank you, Mrs. Salty. Good evening, everyone. First on the agenda here, we have 3-8 testing. If you recall from our last meeting, we spoke about the ELA test. The assessment was administered April 19th through the 26th. Makeups ended on the 28th. Today we started the administration of the math assessment. That will end on May 9th, with makeups running from the 5th through the 11th. We've been monitoring our participation rates, and we're just waiting for some of those items to be, as we say, tagged in the system. Once we get those percentages, we can certainly share those with you. What we've noticed in monitoring the administration itself, there were no network issues, there were no system issues. Everything ran relatively smoothly for us, which is always a success. There have been times in the past where the Nextera system has had a little bit of an overload, backlogged it a little bit, but we did not experience that this time to my knowledge. So our students are doing a great job, our administrative team is doing a wonderful job monitoring, teachers are doing great proctoring, and off we go, continuing on with math. Next, you have summer academies for ELA and math, summer of 2023. So all of our students have been identified. What we're using right now would be the NWEA, ELA, and math, along with at the secondary level, high school level, STAR assessments for ELA and math. We also have teacher discretion, teacher recommendations, so our administrative team is also talking to our AIS departments, our MTSS teams, and taking teacher recommendations for students to be identified to be invited to the summer academies. So those students who will be invited are now on a master list that we've shared out with AdVista, who is putting together our notifications to be sent out to our parents. We're anticipating hopefully by the end of this week, if not into the early part of next week. So as soon as that is built, we will have it sent out every morning through email. So parents, please take a good look at your email in the morning. And if it is there, we would ask that you acknowledge it by saying, yes, my student will participate, or no, unfortunately, my student will not participate. And that will help us to better organize our lists. We're also in the process of hiring our teaching staff, and all of our assistants and teaching assistants as well. So we'll keep you informed as we go through that process. Yesterday, we had a wonderful substitute teacher orientation here in this room. We were fortunate to have approximately 20 teachers who wished to be substitute teachers here in district with us. It was from 9 a.m. to noon. It was a rather jam-packed agenda. A lot of information shared, covered a lot of safety policies, procedures, a lot of Board of Education policies, and general practices. Our building level administrators joined us here, covered a lot of building level expectations, and additionally, they spoke of their individual building procedures and safety protocols as well. The feedback that we received while we had a lineup toward the end to get some ID badges was rather positive. I think they were very grateful to have the opportunity not just to come here, but to listen to the information presented. So we were very pleased with that feedback. We will get them on the agenda as soon as we can organize all of the ERFs, which we anticipate will be the next board meeting. And upon approval, they're ready to substitute. Next, I just want to mention, as we did at that first round of high school concerts, we're very, very pleased and very fortunate to have been once again awarded the NAM Foundation Best Communities Award for Music Education. You know, if my memory serves me correctly, I believe we've had it awarded to us every year since 2017. That's a wonderful, wonderful award to win. So essentially, we're one of 830 school districts across the United States to have been awarded the NAM Foundation Best Communities Award. And it recognizes outstanding efforts by our teachers, our administrative team, our parents, most importantly, our students, and in general, the entire school community. So it just shows how much support we have in music and the arts in district. We're very proud of that. Our teaching staff works extremely hard, but our students participate, they keep coming back, and they keep excelling, and we're very fortunate, very proud. Next up, one of the longer portions of this presentation will be the Olympics of the Visual Arts that's been mentioned a few times. So OVA, our students had a chance from CJH and Goshen High School to participate in OVA on the 27th in Saratoga Springs. We were very well represented. If you're not familiar with OVA, our students go out and they compete in project building in 8 different categories. So you may see categories such as drawing, painting, fashion design, and so on. And there's also what they refer to as a spontaneous on-demand project where students have, I believe, 90 minutes to just take the topic and create, an end product. So running down the list as briefly as I can, but also while being sure to recognize those that work very hard. Goshen High School illustration team placed 3rd in the state, so we're very proud of that team. Goshen High School industrial design team placed 1st in the state and also 3rd overall in that spontaneous program. Very, very excellent, unique, really proud of them. I would imagine that on-demand project is quite difficult, right? It's sprung on you at the last possible moment, so great job. CJ Hooker Industrial Design placed 1st in the state. Drawing, CJ Hooker Drawing Team placed 1st in the state. CJ Hooker Photography placed 2nd. Illustration placed 2nd. Sculpture placed 3rd. CJ Hooker Painting Team placed 3rd. And CJ Hooker placed 1st overall in the on-demand spontaneous challenge. So as you can see, we've got a great group of students performing at a very high level, representing themselves in this district very well, and we should all be very proud as we are. So congratulations to the team members that have worked for a long time to prepare for this, and congratulations to all those who volunteered their time to help our students be prepared for this opportunity. Very, very happy. What we'll do now, the list is rather long, but we do want to make sure that everyone is properly recognized, so we'll work with Mrs. Gore to get all the names and awards up on our website as quickly as possible. And then I also wanted to mention Lion King Jr., so I had the opportunity to watch that. It was very good. It was very cute, it was very good. Our students clearly worked very hard, spot on with lines, music was excellent. The stage crew did a wonderful job. It was well prepared. It was a great performance. So if you recall, it was performed at GIS on the 21st and 22nd. We had 2 color teams, so there were a couple of different performances to take part in. Again, our students worked hard. Just want to say thank you to Mrs. Nat for all of her hard work. She has a large part in bringing this back to GIS. We also had many other volunteers who contributed an awful lot of time and energy to make it possible. And overall, I believe it was a hit. So we're very proud of our students at GIS, and we're very thankful for all those who participated and volunteered. And that's it for me this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have one quick question. I don't know if you have the numbers in yet for kindergarten registration, but is that trending? Like, are we looking at probably like approximately, what, 190?
Yeah, so, I'm kind of going straight off of memory, so forgive me, and I will send out accurate numbers, but I believe we're in the mid 130 range with those numbers climbing to date. I don't know where they're going to land, but I believe we anticipate that will be somewhere, right around where we are today.
So no
Maybe a little
surprises.
less, maybe a little more, but we're looking okay.
And you may already have said this too, the summer program, how many do we anticipate participating in that?
So we have a large list. We try to put together a rather large list to give as many students as possible the opportunity to participate in both ELA and math. We also have, a couple of students who are added to maybe just math or maybe just ELA by teacher discretion. So the lists are rather large that are going out. We try to just get it out there. Once it goes out and we start to get those reports back, we'll have a better idea, which will then help us to become properly staffed. So I couldn't really put a number on it, but just know that the lists that are going out are rather large. It's not like a list of 50 or even 150, the lists for each building are rather large.
And again, just to add also, if a parent then contacts Mr. Carter, myself, and says, I understand my child missed the cutoff score, but they're doing okay, but could they take advantage of it? We will 100% allow them to participate as well. This is really designed this year to be targeted intervention in math and ELA. They'll have a quick transition block with health and wellness with a PE teacher also, but we'll really be looking specifically at math and ELA skills. Very focused this summer.
And typically it's like a 9 to 12 day.
Correct, and we'll do four days a week.
Yeah, so it's July 3rd to August 11th, 9 to noon.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Carter.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, I need a motion for the consent agenda. I have Shannon and Tom. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We don't have any other business. I need a motion to approve the minutes. I have Tom and Brett. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the minutes for this April 17th, 2023 regular board meeting and the April 20th, 2023 special board meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Need a motion to approve the revised 2022-2023 student calendar. Tom and Shannon. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the district-wide closing on Friday, May 26, 2023, to adjust the student calendar. This adjustment is necessary because one additional scheduled snow day has not been used and must be subtracted from the calendar. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 12.3, I need a motion to approve an agreement for special education services. I have Tom and Brett. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves entering into an agreement with Marian Hammerand to provide occupational therapy services to special education students effective July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024 at a rate of $79 per hour as needed. Be it further resolved, the Board of Education authorizes the superintendent of schools to execute the agreement. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I need a motion to approve an agreement for special education services. Shannon and Brett. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education enters into an agreement with Field of Dreams Preschool to provide special education services for students and for the district to sub-allocate IDA 611 and 619 funds to said providers on a per-student basis for the school year July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I need a motion to approve addendum agreement to superintendent's contract. I have Shannon and Brett. Be it resolved that the board president is hereby authorized to execute an addendum agreement dated May 2nd, 2023 and effective July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023 to the contract for the superintendent of schools. A copy of said agreement shall be incorporated by reference within the minutes of this meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I need a motion for 12.6, approve appointment of long-term substitute principal at Scotchtown Avenue School. I have Shannon and Tom. Be it resolved that the board hereby appoints Deirdre Hallahan to serve on a contractual, non-tenure basis bearing basis, as long-term substitute principal at Scotchtown Avenue Elementary School, effective April 18th, 2023 through July 21st, 2023, at a salary of $600 per diem. Be it further resolved, the Board of Education authorizes the Board of Education President to execute the agreement between the Goshen Central School District and the long-term substitute principal. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have privilege of the floor. We don't have anyone signed up. Next on the agenda, any board member issues or committee reports?
Just
For
a,
security.
Go ahead.
Okay.
We, Security Committee met yesterday. We had a good meeting. I'm pleased to announce the district behind the scenes have been working diligently on securing our campuses and all of our schools. They've worked on identifying cameras that need to be replaced either through age or in operation. And very important that they're working to monitorize the access control to our buildings, which is what's absolutely needed. Lastly, on that front, communications has been repeated here several times, and it's a major issue between communication within the school. Obviously, anyone that's been at the high school, your cell phone doesn't even work. And they're at some of the final stages of identifying and working with contractor to upgrade our communication for radios between not only the school itself, but all the schools to be able to communicate, which is important in times of need, obviously. We also, was great to hear and to see that the superintendent and the district has been working with the county with emergency services and with our local law enforcement, especially when you see what's happened lately with Pine Bush Schools, that they've been taking the lead and doing a lot of meetings. And which brings us to next week, we have another meeting scheduled where Village of Goshen Police, State Police, Sheriff's Office, we're gonna come together and basically table everything that's going on and continue to work towards securing our campuses and protecting our schools and our children.
Thank you.
Anything to add?
All right. I was actually going to speak about policy.
Okay.
So the policy committee is moving forward with a full audit review on policy book. And one of the components of that is a specific review of our code of conduct. So what we're proposing to do is very similar to what happened with the building condition survey. We'll be putting out a questionnaire looking for volunteers from the community, a cross-section of parents and a few students, to be involved with a code of conduct review. So we'll be issuing something shortly. We ask the public to please take a look at this, and if you're interested, to please fill out that questionnaire. We look forward to having a cross-reference of parents and students to hear their feedback, specifically looking at this code of conduct. And then it will run very similar to the actions that the building condition team took to give their recommendations for review and the board to consider to finalize the code of conduct in parallel with the overall policy committee audit, well, policy audit, I should say. So that's what's going on there. And just one more committee update, question, just if we could firm up the date on our next building facility. I know we have a couple of pencil dates in there, so get something on the books next. That's it for me.
And the next policy committee meeting is Wednesday, right? Not this Wednesday, not tomorrow, next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
That's right,
Next
next
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
And this isn't necessarily board member issues, but I did neglect to thank Karen Wells for yesterday. She took time out and she arranged for the board to be able to, and also Mr. Carter was there and Dr. Coates was there, to look at an electric bus. Because if we're gonna start making, those purchases, it was a great tour, very informative. I forgot his name, Dan
from Mid-City.
from Mid-City. He was very informative, and we were able to even take a ride. Dr. Coates, if you haven't had a chance to look at your email, provided a video so that you could just take a look, for those who weren't able to attend. But again, thank you to Karen Wells, our Director of Transportation, for arranging that. So.
And also to Mid-City for
And
delivering
Mid-City,
the bus
yeah,
and
because they really
actually spent
did.
some time with us.
So definitely, it was definitely informative. Anyone else? Next on the agenda, did that already, sorry. I need a motion to approve an executive session. I have Shannon and Tom. Be it resolved, the Board of Education will enter into executive session. Be it resolved, the Board of Education will enter into executive session with the intent not to reconvene the business portion of the meeting for discussions related to the employment history of a particular person or persons. All those in favor? Opposed? concludes tonight's meeting. Thank you everyone for coming.